What would you do if you nearly won $1 million, raced your teammate toe-to-toe all night long, then walked over to congratulate him, and he told you that you still weren't good enough? That is not a hypothetical scenario pulled from some fictional drama. That is exactly what Chase Briscoe says happened after the NASCAR All-Star Race at Dover, and it has ignited a conversation that is now dividing the entire NASCAR community straight down the middle. Tonight, we are breaking down two stories: the absolute chaos of the All-Star Race itself, and the one comment that has turned a celebration into a controversy. This is NASCAR Race News, still a growing channel pushing toward 1,000 subscribers, and if honest, daily NASCAR coverage is what you are here for. Hit that subscribe button right now because we are only getting started. The NASCAR All-Star Race at Dover was supposed to be a loose, exhibition-style event, no points on the line, just pride, bragging rights, and $1 million sitting at the finish line waiting for whoever wanted it badly enough. Instead, Dover delivered one of the most chaotic, punishing, and genuinely unpredictable nights of the entire 2025 NASCAR season. The format itself, complete with segment inversions, restarts layered on top of each other, and heavy traffic cycling through the field, created conditions that even the most experienced drivers in the sport struggled to manage cleanly. Denny Hamlin admitted after the race that long-run speed became the deciding factor once dirty air started cycling through the field. Source: post-race media availability, Dover Motor Speedway. He also acknowledged that the format created genuine challenges even for the fastest cars on the property, which says something significant when you consider the depth of talent that showed up for this race. Dover, even in an exhibition format, is a track that exposes weaknesses and punishes hesitation. It does not offer easy laps, and Sunday night proved that in brutal fashion. Before we get to the moment that has everyone talking, we have to walk through the wreckage, because a lot of very recognizable names did not make it out of Dover standing. Chase Elliott never made it out of the first segment. He got collected in multiple early incidents and said afterward that the race became pure survival mode almost immediately. He did not even know what the right strategy was because the track was sliding cars in every direction, and for a driver that many expected to be a legitimate contender for the win, this was a humbling and frustrating night from start to finish. Ross Chastain took heavy damage to the front clip of the number 1 Busch Light Chevrolet early enough that advancing through the segments became impossible. Despite a result that nobody at Trackhouse Racing wanted, Chastain tried to stay constructive after the race, pointing out that the team actually showed some improvement with the current downforce package compared to recent weekends. It was a small silver lining attached to what was otherwise a very difficult night. John Hunter Nemechek had arguably the most painful exit of the entire field. His team had battled all weekend to find speed, and they actually felt competitive going into the race. He was positioned to potentially start on the pole for the second segment, a meaningful opportunity, before getting caught in a massive incident on the front stretch when Riley Herbst either got loose or got turned, depending on who you ask. Nemechek described the moment as heartbreaking, and that word choice tells you everything you need to know about how much this result cost him emotionally and competitively. Ryan Preece finished 36th and took another significant hit to his night. He admitted afterward that he was not entirely sure what triggered his incident entering Turn 1, and he went as far as publicly apologizing if the crash turned out to be his fault. In a race where emotions were running at an extreme level for almost everyone in the field, that kind of accountability stood out. Dover does not care about reputations or expectations. It punishes mistakes regardless of who is making them, and Sunday night reinforced that point repeatedly. Now here is where the story shifts, and this section matters enormously, because the comment that Denny Hamlin allegedly made to Chase Briscoe only carries the weight that it does if you fully understand what Briscoe actually accomplished on the racetrack Sunday night. Briscoe came into Dover dealing with two separate problems before the green flag even dropped. First, he had slammed the wall during practice, forcing his Joe Gibbs Racing team to essentially rebuild the entire car from scratch before the race started. Second, he had been dealing with a stomach bug that had been affecting him for 2 to 3 days leading up to the event. Physically, he was not operating at full capacity, and mechanically, his team was already working under pressure before a single competitive lap had been run. And yet, despite all of that, Briscoe led multiple portions of the race. He fought Hamlin head-to-head for the lead on multiple restarts and extended green flag runs. He was legitimately one of the fastest cars on the entire property throughout the night, not a beneficiary of attrition who found himself near the front through chaos alone. Briscoe himself acknowledged after the race that his only real weakness late in the going was rear grip. Every time he grabbed the lead and got into clean air, the car would loosen up over longer runs. Hamlin's experience and long-run consistency eventually took over with approximately 29 laps to go, but being overtaken by a veteran at his best on one of his best track types after leading laps and competing at that level is not a failure. It is a performance worth acknowledging clearly. Chase Briscoe was not lucky to finish second. He earned it. And that fact is the entire foundation of why what happened next created such an immediate and intense national reaction. After the race, Briscoe went through the normal post-race routine. He praised his team for the rebuild job they had pulled off, acknowledged the stomach illness, and walked through the race strategy. Standard professional debriefing in front of cameras. Routine stuff. Then came the moment outside the number 19 hauler that immediately went viral across every NASCAR platform and fan community. Briscoe told reporters that after the race ended, he walked over to Denny Hamlin to congratulate him, a completely normal, professional gesture between two teammates who had just delivered the best head-to-head battle of the night. But according to Briscoe, Hamlin's response was to tell him that he still was not Cup Series level. Read that again. Teammate. After a second-place All-Star finish. After leading laps. After rebuilding a wrecked car. After competing through a stomach illness. After nearly winning $1 million. Briscoe's exact word for the comment was classless. Not emotional. Not misdirected. Not even just harsh. Classless. That is a deliberate, specific word choice from a driver who had time to process what he wanted to say before stepping in front of cameras. Source: Chase Briscoe. Post-race media availability, Dover Motor Speedway. When athletes reach for a word that pointed and that measured, it is not a heat-of-the-moment reaction. It is a considered statement. What made the fan reaction explode even further was what happened when reporters went directly to Denny Hamlin and asked him about Briscoe's claims. Hamlin did not deny the comment. He leaned back on the framing that emotions run high after competitive races and that they had competed hard against each other all night. That is not a denial. That is deflection, and the NASCAR fanbase recognized exactly what it was. The fan community split along two fairly clear lines. Hamlin's defenders argued that this is precisely who Denny Hamlin is: psychologically aggressive, ruthless, and relentlessly competitive. He does not distribute validation. He competes for it and expects others to do the same. Some within racing circles believe that kind of competitive edge keeps an entire organization sharp and hungry. On the other side, Briscoe's supporters, and there were a significant number of them in the hours following the race, felt the comment crossed a fundamental line. Not because Briscoe required a trophy or public praise, but because a teammate who had just proven he belonged at the front of a Cup Series field deserved something other than a dismissal. This is not going away quietly. This is exactly the kind of moment that shifts dynamics inside a garage for an entire season. Joe Gibbs Racing has been operating under a specific kind of quiet internal pressure throughout the 2025 season. The veteran presence, specifically Hamlin, continues to dominate headlines, sponsorship conversations, and the organizational gravity inside that shop. Meanwhile, newer additions like Briscoe are actively trying to establish themselves as legitimate frontrunners rather than supporting roles in someone else's story. This moment sharpens that tension in a way that is difficult to walk back. Because if Hamlin genuinely said what Briscoe claimed, and again, Hamlin offered no denial, then a veteran driver actively undermined a teammate's standing in a public enough context that it became a national NASCAR story before midnight on Sunday. That is a real organizational problem, regardless of how either driver handles the press going forward. The question that matters now is practical: does that dynamic help Joe Gibbs Racing? Does a fractured internal relationship, even one that originated in an exhibition race week, benefit anyone when Charlotte arrives? Charlotte is the next major event on the schedule, a track where momentum, confidence, and team chemistry all carry measurable weight. Briscoe is going to walk into that race weekend fielding questions about Hamlin. Hamlin is going to walk in operating as though this has already blown over. And every camera in that garage will be watching both of them very closely. Despite all of the post-race noise, it is worth stating directly, Denny Hamlin was the best driver on the racetrack at Dover on Sunday night. His long-run speed, his experience at that particular facility, and his track position management throughout the final segment were all exactly what you would expect from a driver of his caliber performing at his best. He collected $1 million and joked afterward that he would probably give it to his mom, which was one of the rare genuinely light-hearted moments of an otherwise contentious night. But what makes Hamlin such an endlessly polarizing figure in this sport is this specific quality: He can win a race convincingly, be completely correct on the racetrack, and still exit the night as the central villain of the story. Not many drivers in the history of this sport can do that. Whether fans love him or genuinely cannot stand him, he keeps himself at the center of the NASCAR conversation every single time he climbs out of a race car. That is not an accident. That is a personality operating exactly as intended. This is exactly why NASCAR is impossible to walk away from. It is never just lap times, pit strategy, and tire data. It is egos under pressure, respect being tested in real time, and the constant, grinding battle to prove yourself against the best competitors in the world, including, sometimes, the driver working out of the next stall in your own shop. So tell us in the comments, do you think Denny Hamlin crossed a line with what he allegedly said to Chase Briscoe, or is this just the old-school NASCAR mentality that has always existed inside elite race shops? And while you are down there, tell us who impressed you most at Dover, because this all-star race had storylines running from green flag to checkered flag. NASCAR Race News is still a growing channel working toward 1,000 subscribers, and being here now means being part of something that is building into something real. If honest NASCAR coverage with no sugarcoating is what you want all season long, hit subscribe, leave a like on the video. It directly helps this channel keep daily NASCAR content coming your way.